From the legendary Joan to the needy nothing. This is Gertrud.
Hey, Jackie.
Hi.
Welcome to Seen and Heard. This is the podcast all about the sight and sound greatest films of all time list. I'm Greg.
I'm Jackie.
And we're back on the list this week after diverting. Our last film was Sherlock Jr., so we were firmly on the list. And that was great and delightful, which was as a stark contrast to this week's film.
You're showing your
But
hands
before we show our
early.
hand too early, we got another really nice review on Apple Podcasts that I wanted to read.
Please.
This is from a Charles who has such kind words for us. He says, a total success in filling a much needed void of consistent talk surrounding the sight and sound list and cinema history. Jackie and Greg are perfect hosts due to their enthusiasm, consistency, and colossal effort that are poured into each week's episode.
Wow.
Seen and Heard has played an instrumental role in my journey of falling in love with film, and I am forever thankful.
I'm very
It's like
honored.
so nice.
I'm so honored.
Thank all of you guys. Like these reviews they keep coming in and they're all really sweet. So
thank you.
we really appreciate this. Before we get into this week's film, Jackie, what have you been watching?
Well, I had to use my AMC A-list because I didn't see anything all month. So I saw Kinds of Kindness and I saw Furiosa.
Oh, you saw Furiosa.
I did yesterday. I'm just realizing I forgot to log it.
What'd you think?
You know,
Not
I
impressed.
liked it, but it's like, I'm not an action person.
What?
So I liked it, but I don't know.
Yeah,
The way
that's fair.
everyone was talking about it, I was expecting to be like really blown away. But I mean, the performances were great, and I actually was really impressed by Chris Hemsworth.
Yeah, me too.
So I saw that.
What'd you think compared to Fury Road? Do you have
I
a favorite?
Fury Road.
Oh,
more.
do you? Okay. I
Do
you
you
would have
like this more?
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Really?
I feel like there's more character stuff in here.
There's more character stuff in here, but I like the journey in Fury Road more. Like this one felt a little repetitive, to be honest.
That's fair.
And also, Anya Taylor-Joy doesn't come in until like an hour in the movie.
Yeah. I mean, it's like a 2.5 hour movie, but yeah.
It was long too. But I did really like Kinds of Kindness.
Yeah. It's almost like we made a video talking about that. Where
Not
we
2 minutes ago.
slightly disagreed.
Slightly disagree, but we saw it together and it was fun and it's unpredictable and wild and weird and I enjoyed it.
It's great. I'm happy for you.
What have you been watching?
Well, I saw Kinds of Kindness with you. If you saw the video we posted, slightly disagreed. I thought it was kind of a B-side to Poor Things. Kind of felt like a mid-tier Yorgos Lanthimos film. Didn't dislike it, but I also I don't know if I'd ever see it again. The big one, so a couple weeks ago when we did Clifford for the S'mores episode, I said that I was going to go to an in-person screening of that at Vidiot's here in LA, and I did go. And everything was working against it because it's like a 9:45 show. Like I'm already kind of like that's kind of outside of my comfort zone.
And you also had just seen it.
I had just seen it, but and also some friends were going to go, and then they all started dropping out. So then it was just me and Molly. But I pushed because Molly hadn't seen it, and I was like, "You're going to love this." And you know what? It was a great experience. Like they had the movie played really loud, and I was like, "Why is this so loud?" And then I realized because once the laughing started, you would not have been able to hear the film if it wasn't that loud because people laughed through the whole thing.
Oh, that's great.
And it was great. No, seriously, it was great. And Molly was losing it because I was on the fence. I'm like, is she going to love this or is she going to like hate it? He's like, she doesn't like Pee-wee's Big Adventure and stuff, like kind of films in a similar vein, but she did love it. And just it was a great experience seeing it in the theater.
Honestly, it's a fun movie.
Yeah.
It's really fun.
I saw The Church, the Michele Soavi film, aka Demons 3, which I know is your favorite series of all time.
The best, the greatest.
I was disappointed with this one. Didn't really like it. And then the last one I'll mention is continuing on my Hammer streak. I did The Devil Rides Out from 1968, same year as Rosemary's Baby. Christopher Lee in a rare kind of good guy role. Got lots of satanic panic stuff in there. Charles West, great character actor. Just a really clear like script by Richard Matheson, shot by like the Hammer composer guy, like directed by Terrence Fisher, who is like the Hammer director. So it was honestly like great. And I saw it the same day that I saw the film we're talking about this week. So it was a nice contrast to that movie because they're completely different.
Which one did you watch first?
I watched Gertrud first.
Okay.
And then I saw this second.
So we're watching Gertrud, which is number 42 on the 2012 list. We watched, I should say, we are discussing. It's number 136 on the 22 list. So it went from 42 to 136. That's almost 100 places.
I just realized too, because I'm about to announce it, I thought this film was from the early 50s. I'm just now seeing it's from 1964.
Isn't that wild?
Wow. Okay. From 1964, this is Carl Theodor Dreyer's Gertrud.
Gertrud was released in 1964. It was written and directed by Carl Theodor Dreyer, based on the play of the same name by Hjalmar Soderberg. Cinematography by Henning Benston. Music by Jörgen Jersild. Gertrud is married to a successful lawyer and prospective politician, Gustav. One day, Gertrud tells Gustav that she is leaving him for another man. She tells him his obsession with his work and her secondary position in his life led to her falling deeply in love with another. Under the pretext of going to the opera, she visits her lover, a young musician named Erlend. After telling him she told Gustav, they go back to Erlend's place to consecrate their relationship. Gustav goes to the opera to pick her up, but is humiliated to learn that she was never there. The next day, at a celebration for one of the nation's most beloved poets, Gabriel Lidman, who is also Gertrud's former lover, Gertrud sees her friend Axel, who tells her of the fabulous time he's having in the Parisian intellectual circles. Gabriel is uncomfortable all night, and he finally reveals to Gertrud that it is because he attended a party the previous night where Erlend was boasting about their affair. Gustav demands one more night with Gertrud before she leaves him. Gertrud sees Erlend the next day and asks him to run away with her. He reveals he does not love her and that he is expecting a child with another woman. At home, Gabriel tries to convince Gertrud to go away with him, but she asserts that their time is long past and that she also left him because of his devotion to his work. Gustav finally snaps when Gertrud can't admit their love was ever real and tells her to leave. She phones Axel and asks if he can help her enroll in the Sorbonne. 30 years later, Axel visits Gertrud, who lives alone. They reminisce about Paris, and Gertrud is without regrets, declaring that love is the only thing that truly matters. The film stars Nina Pens-Rode as Gertrud, Bent Roth as Gustav, Ebb Rode as Gabriel, and Bard O as Erlend. This was Dreyer's last film. He was 75 when he made this. It was his first film since Ordette in 1955, which we've covered on the show. It's number 24 on the list. He had been wanting to adapt a work by the Swedish playwright Soderberg. He added the epilogue to the story and greatly changed the third act. Dreyer also included direct quotes from the woman the play was inspired by. Her name was Maria von Platen, and she was a Swedish cultural figure and the former lover of Soderberg's. Editing the film apparently took only 3 days.
What?
It takes me 3 days to edit one of our Instagram videos. On many scenes, which included one long take, there would be 2 days dedicated to rehearsals only, and shooting would happen on the third day. The film actually premiered in Paris, and it was a disastrous opening. Bad sound system, the subtitles were wrong, the reels were played in the wrong order, horrible first reactions. It showed at Cannes and it was booed. It played at Venice to many walkouts, but an eventual standing ovation from those who remained.
Keyword eventual.
And it really divided critics. Godard placed it as number 1 of his favorite films of that year. Guy du Cinema put it second after Band of Outsiders. And yeah, it didn't do too well at the box office. Similar to Sherlock Jr.
That this is Godard's number 1 for the year. That all
More
checks
than his
out.
Own film.
Well, yeah, you can't say your own film.
He would. I'm kidding.
That's true. Maybe.
What else came out that year?
I know A Hard Day's Night came out in 64.
Sound of Music? Or is that 65?
No, I think that's 65. 64. Yeah.
Woman in the Dunes.
Oh,
your
God.
fave.
That's on my top 4 on Letterboxd.
Fistful of Dollars.
Okay. Well.
Send Me No Flowers. That's a fun movie. Umbrellas of Cherbourg.
Oh, my God. But wasn't Jacques Demy kind of like frowned upon by his peers?
No, I honestly don't know much about Jacques Demy.
I think I got that sense that he was like not one of the cool ones because he wasn't doing anything incredibly subversive or...
My Fair Lady, which is,
I like it. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, those are just to name a few titles.
Boy.
I probably would have gone with Cherbourg.
Yeah, well, Woman in the Dunes for me, but Cherbourg probably number 2. I love Cherbourg. Like everyone who sees it. So I don't know that anyone doesn't like that movie.
Really?
Right? I don't know. Everyone I've talked to only has glowing things to say about it.
That makes me happy.
Except for my mom, who I showed it to, and she fell asleep.
Actually, one time it was on while I was wrapping gifts, and my mom's like, "What is this?" I'm like, "Umbrellas of Cherbourg." And I don't think she sat and watched the whole thing, but she was definitely interested.
I'm sure she's enchanted by what she saw
Who
on screen.
couldn't be? Yeah.
It's irresistible.
Yeah.
I think it's also telling of this week's film that we're spending time on Umbrellas of Cherbourg over Gertrud.
I wish this movie was about Gertrude Stein.
Yeah. Well, who wants to go first on initial thoughts?
This is hard.
I showed my hand to you.
I feel like my initial thoughts lead into my first talking point. So why don't you go first?
Okay. Well, unfortunately, I couldn't keep this a secret from you this week because I texted you during the movie.
While I was at Furiosa, by the way.
Oh, you're at Furiosa?
Yeah.
So Dreyer has made some of my favorite films on the list so far. Passion of Joan of Arc or Debt, which was a first-time watch for me and is what remains one of my favorite films that we've done.
Yeah.
So maybe my expectations were too high, but having made some of my favorite movies on the list, I can safely say this is not one of them. And to sugarcoat this as much as possible, I'm almost positive this is my least favorite movie we've ever done on the show.
That's crazy.
And it's also safe to say I hate this movie, and I think it's terrible. I think it's garbage.
Whoa.
I think it's garbage. So I'll keep this brief because we have a whole episode to get into why this movie is terrible. I genuinely don't know your thoughts because you haven't really shared them with me. I think you think it's less than stellar, but I don't think you hate it in the way that I hate it.
I think movie I hate most on the list is probably The Wild Bunch.
Oh, no, this is way worse than I'll watch The Wild Bunch 5 times in a row before watching this again.
Interesting.
I just hate this movie. I think it's laughable. It's laughable how serious this movie takes itself. And maybe it was great on stage, but this whole kind of just like looking off into the distance for the entire film.
They don't look at each other.
They barely look at each other. The movie's paced in a glacial way. None of the characters are interesting or empathetic in any sense of the word. And it goes on for like this for 2 hours, and you have lines. Okay, again, I realize it could be lost in translation because this movie has not been restored. I don't know the last time someone went through and like made subtitles for it. Some of the lines, though, I'm a mouth seeking another mouth. That's something that's said in this film. Another something that said, life is a dream.
That's the same speech.
It is. Another line, you wanted the pleasure of the flesh, not love. And lastly, a woman's love and a man's work are mortal enemies. And for a movie from 1964, this is unacceptable. And I really think this film parodies itself. I think, maybe I would see this again on the big screen with like alcohol and a whole room full of people that also hated it, so we could just laugh during the whole thing, because that's what I felt like doing. This movie, I'm a patient person. I'm a patient viewer. This tested my abilities from like 40 minutes in on. The only part of this movie I liked was the opening scene where Gertrud tells her current husband that, you know, she wants out.
Yeah.
I was like, okay, this is interesting.
Yeah.
All the films I like from Dreyer are about working class people, or, you know, like him tackling this kind of Antonioni. This is the Antonioni milieu here with these characters. It's like the bored upper crust characters, and I just don't think he does a good job of it. And I'm sad that this is his last movie, because I think it's so not telling of the great filmmaker that he was. So I hate
He's also
this.
75.
Yeah, but you know, you can still make a great movie. Marty just turned, he's like in his 80s now, and he made Killers of the Flower Moon.
Is he in his 80s?
Or he's like 80, 81. Scorsese, yeah.
Oh my God.
And Killers of the Flower Moon is really, really strong. So
yeah, I loved it.
I hate this. I hate it. So let's hear you.
You know, for the until about an hour in, I was into it. I would say an hour. I was invested. I thought the long takes were good because they were paying off, like you said, in the first scene especially, because it's like this long take and you're like, what a stiff couple, like, ugh, like I want to shake them. And then the explosion, right? At first it's like, you haven't let me in your room, and I'm like, oh fuck. And then the mom's here and I'm like, oh, and then she's like, tell your mom to leave, and I'm like, ah. So I was into it. Yeah. I was really into it. And I was taken aback by the blunt talk of sex. I was like, yes, the play is set in the 1900s.
Turn of the century.
Yeah, and I was taken back by it. The way she just like blurts out the news, and then when they go back to Erlen's house and they have sex, like I was impressed. But then it lost me, I think, when Gabriel gets in the picture. Mm-hmm. Totally lost me, except I do think the scene on the couch works. The scene on the couch where he tells her about the night before.
You think so?
Yeah, because when it's very much that like it was very much like, okay, why are they not looking at each other? Why is it so stiff? Why is it doing this? And then I was like, oh, and it's all one take, and I was like, that's kind of cool. I thought that was kind of cool.
I mean, but if that's the thing that makes it cool, is it worthwhile?
Well, no, I'm just saying, I was like, why are they acting like statues? And then he says it, and I'm like, it goes back to that like transcendental thing we talked about.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think the couch worked for me, but then it drags, and then she goes back to Erlen, and she's so desperate, and and this is my main problem. I do not agree with the thesis of this movie.
Yeah, exactly.
At all.
Yeah.
And I don't even think the movie agrees with the thesis. It's like, you think it's going to be one thing, and then it's not. So this is why I said like my initial thoughts kind of drag into my first point, which is just that like I really don't agree with the movie at all. Like the idea that your relationship should be the most important and interesting thing about you in your life, always, like you live only for it. That's why miserable people are miserable, because they don't get fulfillment from anything else. And it's like, that's what this movie is preaching, but not like on the phone when she says to Axel, I want to go to Paris and I want to study. I was like, great, like pay off, like great, nice. And that's how it should have ended. Like all of the, like, I've talked about Simone de Beauvoir before, but like her book was written in the 40s. And like one of the main things she talks about is like the inequality between men and women comes from the fact that men are expected to contribute to society and women are expected not to. And so all they have is their personal lives to worry about. And this leads to depression and neurosis. And I agree with that. Not that it leads to more unwavering devotion, which is what Gertrud does. And so when she leaves them all for Paris, I was like, oh, sick. But then in the epilogue, we learned she didn't do anything. And she is still like, she doesn't regret her, quote, loves. And love is the most important. And it just makes the character fall so flat. Just like she's still dreaming about her days of like a stupid, desperate, quote, romantic.
Yeah, she's like, getting love is all chiseled on her tombstone.
It's so annoying.
Like, what?
It's really, really infuriating. And people compared this to Ibsen, but like A Doll's House is so much better. And A Doll's House was written in the 1870s.
Exactly.
And she leaves her husband and that's it. She walks out the door. That's it.
Yeah.
And this had that goddamn epilogue that I hated.
Absolutely took it to a whole new level. Like, I was bored, and then the epilogue happened, and I was like, oh, this is like aggressively terrible.
And again, yeah, when she's in Gabriel's house and she finds that thing of like a man's work and a woman's love, like, don't mesh. And I was like, Jesus, like, this is like, I don't know. So like, and then this led me to think like, I don't know, maybe it's because I see myself more in Gustav and Gabriel.
Mm-hmm.
And so like, I like what she was saying at the start, the first scene when she's like, do you realize you can sit for hours without saying a word? And he's like, well, I'm thinking about a lot of stuff. Like, I was like, okay, that's interesting. And then she says like, a woman loves her husband above all, but for him, work comes first. And he says, isn't that the nature of the universe? Again, going back to like, yeah, the principles of inequality. I mean, like, I get it. And it was harder back then. But then when she was with Gabriel, she was this independent woman. He even calls her that. Gustav calls her that. And she still dumped him because he couldn't devote himself completely to her, which is fine.
Yeah.
But don't make it your entire personality. Like, I love Phantom Thread, right? And I love it. And it's about this artist who like can't really devote himself fully to a relationship. Sunday in the Park with George is like my favorite Sondheim musical. And I love this topic so much. And it's so interesting and personal to me. But it's the fact that it's her whole identity.
Yeah.
And in the end,
and that she didn't grow up. Like, she did not grow up.
Exactly. That is what pisses me off.
She's infantile.
And she's supposed to be a singer. So it's like, where's that? You also had something. So it's like, what's the issue here, lady?
Yeah.
So I don't know. Yeah, exactly. Like, shouldn't she understand these guys if she was a singer, if she has passion, if she has talent? Shouldn't she kind of understand these guys and not be the biggest desperate, just like insufferably romantic person I've ever met? Like, needy. Pick me needy energy that I can't deal with.
Well, her idea of love is the idea of like a 16-year-old girl. It's like,
yeah.
So she's just an idiot. She's emotionally stunted idiot.
Literally.
Which is fine if that's what you're going to make the movie about. But then, yeah, like you said, the thesis of the film, you feel like it's like, well, look what happened to her. And it's like, what?
And she even says, she goes, the man I am with must be completely mine. I must come before everything. That sounds like a nightmare to me.
Yeah.
Like, I do not want that. And I do not agree with that.
Yeah.
And most women don't. And so the fact that it's just this extremely flat woman who is just what's the word I'm looking for? She's like one of the she's like one of the little sisters in Pride and Prejudice. Like, she's like Kitty or Lydia, who's like literally just like a teenager obsessed with boys. And that's what drives me nuts.
Where would you rank this on the boring scale? Were you bored in this fucking movie?
You know, I was only bored once it hit that dinner party.
Oh, God. Well, that's pretty early on.
That's an hour in.
Yeah. Uh-huh.
But like the scene where they go back to Airlands, I was like, cool. I like that scene. Even the scene in the park, I was like, this guy is fishy. This guy's got something. And I was invested. Like, I was interested. Like, she says, like, I love you. And he puts his hands in his pocket. And I'm like, oh, God, sis.
The blocking of this movie, too, is like, it feels, because on stage, which is where it came from, you're allowed to do stuff that's really on the nose. Stage is just more of kind of a, I don't want to say pantomime medium, but it's more of like you can project really loudly and things, little movements can be really loud on stage.
Yeah.
But you do those same things in a film and they're too much. And I almost felt like they didn't even consider that when blocking the film, because a lot, yeah, like putting his hands in his pockets, looking off to the side. It's like, I can see that working on stage, but in a film, it just does not work to that extent.
We talked about this when we did Ordette, right? And how that is also like a chamber piece shot very much like a play. And
right, but that one works.
That one works, and I want to let's talk about that maybe, like the two Dryers, right? So you have like
late period Dryers.
Yeah, Vampire and Joan of Arc, like the silent stuff where it's like a lot of cuts and moving and craziness, and then the complete opposite with Ordette and Gertrud.
Yeah.
But with Ordette, it worked so well because it had like true transcendence.
Yes.
Like it had like true miracles, literally and figuratively.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's just like the family story is much more interesting than this desperate woman. And there's tension in the childbirth scene and the insanity of it all. Like there's a lot going on in the frame. So Ordette works so much better in the style. It's
honestly mind-blowing that the same filmmaker made both films, because...
But it is similar stylistically. No, it is. That's the thing.
But it's like to see one work so well, like Ordette is such a masterpiece. And then to see him do something similar here and it just falls so flat. It's just wild.
Yeah.
And I just can't believe this is 1964. It feels like 1948 or something.
For sure.
Right?
For sure. But it's like the play is set in the 1900s. I don't know. But there were moments it did work. Like we talked about, like, for me at least, like we talked about this transcendence, right? And the moments it did work for me, like I said, the very stiff opening, the couple who's very prim and proper, so much so that I thought they were brother sister when the movie started.
Yeah.
And then he goes like, may I kiss you? And I'm like, oh. And then like, of course, oh, you lock the door on me. And I was like, again, like I said, when she tells the mother to leave, I mentioned the couch scene worked for me again. It was like holding back, being like so stiff. And then like this grown man breaks down crying. And I was like, I was shocked.
The crying though was a little...
I was shocked.
The performance, at least with the crying... I don't know.
I was a little shocked though. Yeah. I think it worked for me. When he starts like audibly sighing, it was like that Schrader thing. It really was. But yeah, those were pretty much it, I think. Also, yeah, I appreciated like the sex of it all. I think the first time she says, give me your mouth, that was good. Because I was like, oh, wow. I was like, spicy. You remember when they're in the park and she's like, give me your mouth?
Yeah,
I'm
no,
like,
I remember.
Whoa. Like, I was taken aback.
That park scene was where I really started hating it.
Really?
Yeah.
You didn't like the apartment? Minus the story she says about life as a dream.
No, I didn't like it.
Really?
Yeah.
I like the way it was shot.
I think sure, the movie's
like,
competently
waiting for them
shot.
to do it, and I was like impatient. I was like, okay, when are they gonna have sex? Come on. Like, I liked that.
I think I'm so sensitive to a film's energy and vibe that if I fall off the tracks, it's hard for me to get back on. Like a movie has to really work to get me back into it. And this movie then just kind of further spiraled into.
That's really interesting. I truly, like, the first hour went by quick for me.
Oh no. Maybe the first 20 minutes.
I had a good time with the first hour.
A good time. Do you want to rephrase that?
I had a good time.
Wow.
I'm just explaining to you all those moments of transcendence happened in the first hour. And I was like, oh, shit. And then it got annoying because she got annoying. And because they introduced this other guy,
She was
Gabriel.
annoying the whole time.
She was annoying the whole time, but I thought she was going to kill herself. And then she didn't. And I was like, oh, boring.
The one thing that really bothers me about this movie is everybody is so calm and collected. And like when the husband has just found out this revelation about his wife and she's leaving, and he has these like very clear, concise thoughts when he's like in the carriage, like he's very rationally going through it. I'm like, this guy would be really spiraling right now.
That was weird. He had voiceover for like 1 second.
Yeah.
That was so random.
And his voiceover
it was like they
was,
forgot to like take that out or...
Maybe in their 3 days of editing, they couldn't cover everything
in 3 days.
Honestly, Jackie, that's telling. It's telling.
It's telling because it's all these long 10-minute takes.
Yeah, but even then, like editing is more than just here's where the clip starts. Here's where the clip ends.
Though.
Oh God, to me, this movie is dead. It's not alive. It's cold. It's the cold, clammy corpse of cinema. It's like she at the end, she says, "I want pure, warm blood." Same. I want the same from this movie, but the movie's no blood in it at all. It's a lifeless fucking movie.
I think that was the point.
Roadkill on the side of the fucking highway.
I think that was the point.
But
it didn't come to a point. That's my point.
It did not come to a point. The point's dumb, too.
Exactly.
And I seriously, I'm like really struggling to name a movie that's more boring than this. Like I was bored out of my fucking mind watching this.
Name a movie more boring.
Seriously.
I don't get bored that often.
I don't really either, but this movie bored the shit out of me.
That's funny.
It was so mind-numbingly boring, which is why I had to text you because I was in so much pain. I'm like, the only way to offload some of this pain is to let other people know, specifically you, that I was in pain.
Yeah. What about all that talk of fate? Like, I thought that was so random and like...
It's so try-hard. It
kind of was.
Yeah.
Like, maybe the play is better, but it's just like... I don't know, see a Doll's House. Like, that's better.
I want nothing to do with this text ever again for the rest of my days. Let's just put it that way.
When it comes to town, you don't want to see
I don't think people are still performing this fucking thing. Also, the fact, like, the characters being glacial and still and in a daze, like they're hypnotized, is taken to such an extreme. It reminded me of the Herzog film, Heart of Glass. Is that what it's called?
I haven't seen it.
where Herzog came in with a hypnotist and before each take hypnotized the actors.
That's so boss.
But in that movie, it's great and it works perfectly. It's about this small town where like their main trade is like glass blowing.
That's so cool.
But it works so great for the movie. But here, everyone felt like they were in this hypnotic stupor. But like, for what point? I mean,
you know what? What pissed me off was when Gabriel comes to their house and he's like, "Come away with me," and I'm like, "What?" And then this man is clearly beaten up, lady. This man is clearly everything you want. A wimpy, simpy weirdo. Why aren't you with him? He is devoting his life to you. Like, he doesn't care.
Yeah.
You have broken this man and you won't even have him. Like, I thought this was what you wanted, sis.
Seriously.
And she doesn't. Oh, no, the time has passed. Like, exactly. You just want like a 16-year-old.
Yeah, truly.
She's so annoying.
Yeah, I hate her.
It's one thing if you think the movie is not on her side, but the movie is on her side.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
If the movie wasn't on her side and she died like in a ditch, I'd be, I'm down. I'm down.
Yeah. Same. Dear God.
Anything else?
I mean, look, this movie is genuinely terrible. And I really hope to never cross paths with it again. I hate it.
I can't believe your most hated movie on the list is Carl Theodor Dreyer.
I know. I'm just as surprised as you.
That's really sad.
Like, I'm trying to think of other films that I kind of hated, like Contempt. But now, in comparison, like Contempt is a masterpiece next to this.
Great. You're going to come around to Contempt one day.
We'll see. Hey, I'm open to that.
It's such a good movie.
This, though, I mean, the very fact that this movie's out there in the world for people to see, I think is only harmful to cinema. Because like someone could stumble upon this movie that's just entering their world cinema journey. And for them to see this film at a formative age, like terrifies me because they would be so turned off.
I'm really excited to be on Letterboxd in a second.
Look, I think this episode might end up being a little shorter than normal because I have nothing else to, like, I can sit here and just spew hate for the rest of the runtime.
You know what I liked? And again, I forgot to mention this moment. I like at the dinner for Gabriel where it follows like one waiter. The tracking shots in that scene are really cool.
Anyone can pull off a good tracking shot though.
Okay, but it follows that waiter or whatever he is up, and then that like band of young people come down, and what they're singing and what they're saying to him is basically like, we need a new generation, like we need to wake up and like be progressive, and like you're our true erotic poet. And I thought that was cool, and I was like, this is giving like Age of Innocence a little bit, and like I thought that was cool.
Well, one of us thought it was cool. That's nice.
You didn't like that scene?
No, I was just checked out.
I thought if the movie was more about sex, that would have been better. And especially at that part, like she had just had sex and like they had been talking about it, and then that, and I was like, wow, we're about to get into like some muddy water. And then
just picturing you sitting there
eating
like
popcorn.
Yeah, you're like, oh boy, muddy water, here it comes.
And then it didn't come. I'm telling you, I enjoyed the first part of this movie, but
how fun. I mean, like I said, the first 20 minutes. But now in retrospect, knowing where the movie goes, I would not enjoy the first 20 minutes now if I rewatched it.
I like when the mom comes, I do.
I mean,
Gustav is like, Gustav
minute.
sucks.
Yeah.
They all kind of suck.
Kinda?
You identify with some of them, but like they suck.
Everyone sucks. And I think that plays into our bigger, like we've talked about this before with films not having like a single empathetic character. It's hard, right?
I like Axel. I think Axel's cool.
He's the singer?
No,
wait, who is he again?
Axel is her friend who like lives in Paris and is like, try these pills, and like enrolls her in the Sorbonne. Like, hey, maybe be with the cool progressive guy. There's just a thought.
Yeah.
Fuck.
He's so bad.
The fact that and also I'm just remembering the fact that she didn't go away with Gabriel. Like, this man is weeping at your feet.
Yeah.
This is what you wanted. Like,
wasn't he also going to Rome?
I don't know.
Yeah, he's like, I'm going back to Rome.
Get out of there.
Like, yeah, go with him back to Rome.
He wants you.
Yeah. If you were listening,
get out of Denmark.
If you're listening and you like this movie, first of all, apologies, but also like shoot us an email, leave us a comment. Like, I would genuinely love to know why. Because for me,
we're about to find out on Letterboxd.
We are going to find someone. I only pulled negative reviews on Letterboxd.
Of course you did.
But yeah, I would like to know why.
Let's do sight and sound, and you can't say you don't have one.
No, I picked one.
Okay, good.
You're gonna love this. It's a combined sight and sound.
Okay.
It's the final shot with the door and the bell.
Because it was done?
Because it was the final shot, and also because the bells reminded me of Satan Tango, which is a much better film.
Masterpiece.
So, yes. Yeah. So but yeah, mostly because it was the end. So here's the bells from that final shot. Satan Tango, right?
Yeah.
What about you?
Or
Sight?
Andrei Rublev.
Yeah, or Andrei Rublev, yeah.
So my favorite sight is when they're in Erlen's apartment and she goes to it's a long shot, she closes the curtains, and then in the shadows she takes off her corset or whatever, but it's a shadow shot. But my jaw dropped. I was like, whoa. I was like, that's cool. And that was still when I thought the movie was doing this thing where it's playing with sexuality and this stiff society and sexuality. And yeah, when she took off her corset in shadow, I gasped. And
wow,
I thought it was beautiful.
Gasped at some point in this film.
I thought that's a beautiful shot.
Did you really gasp though, audibly?
I was like,
really?
Yeah.
No, I don't believe it.
I did. And then you're gonna die for my sound.
Let's hear
You know what my sound is?
No.
It's Gabriel moaning on the couch.
Oh boy.
Because again, I was shocked. I was like, I should not be seeing this. Here it is.
Gabriel. Gabriel, er du tager dig det så nær.
That's so funny. I can't believe that that's your favorite sound.
What else would I pick?
I mean, I get it because there's some life in that moment.
Exactly.
So some life,
yeah.
It's like little seeds of, oh boy, I can grab onto these at least. Dear God, what a lifeless fucking movie.
Oh my God.
I hate this. I hate it. Is this your least favorite we've done?
I don't know. I think The Wild Bunch.
The Wild Bunch more than this?
Wild Bunch is it gets on my nerves. This movie doesn't get on my nerves.
This didn't get on your nerves?
Boring.
Kind of
She
boring.
gets on my nerves. But at least it's Dreyer and it's in black and white and
at least The Wild Bunch has William
that.
Holden and stuff.
But I just hate The Wild Bunch.
I mean, I don't like it either.
I hate what it stands for and I hate all the men in it and it's just I just hate it.
That's fair.
I don't know. That sucks.
Yeah.
This sucks too. I just feel bad saying that this is my least favorite because it's Dreyer and he's such a master.
You know what? Here's the thing about art. You can, just be honest, and someone can make a great film and they can make a terrible film.
But two masterpieces.
Yeah. Because I don't love Vampire. I think Vampire has some interesting stuff in it. It's not, I don't know that it's wholly successful because it is this half silent film, half sound.
Yeah. Where
I feel like it's a little awkward. There's some incredible imagery in that movie, but certainly, yeah, Joan of Arc and Ardette are just on they're on the Mount Everest of great films, certainly.
Yeah.
But
what else have we done that I didn't like?
The Searchers. That was more like a lukewarm thing.
I like The Searchers more than this.
Oh, for sure. You also weren't super hot on Rio Bravo.
I don't even remember it. Oh, that's the one with Dean Martin.
Yeah.
It's okay. That's such a mid movie in my
opinion. Is it mid?
Yes.
But compared to this, which one's better?
Wait, is that the one with James Stewart?
No, it's the one with Dean Martin.
What's
and Ricky
one with
Nelson.
Jimmy Stewart that I watched. The man who shot Liberty Valance.
Oh, yeah. We haven't done that in the show.
I thought Rio Bravo is the most mid movie I've
Oh,
ever
I
seen.
liked it.
Why? What is there to like about it? Like, it's like, okay, it's fine, but like
Yeah.
sight and soundless? Like,
I mean,
that's crazy.
I think we came to that conclusion on, like, I liked that movie much more than you, but yeah, I mean, top 100 is a tight list.
Yeah.
Again,
I don't have
indicative
time for these.
of Gertrude that we're spending time talking about other films. Any
But it's
other
also
film we can think of.
136 on the list now. Like, I feel like it'll leave by the next one.
How did it even get on the top 150? That's crazy.
It's 42. It's in the first half of the top 100 in 2012.
Because we go off the critics list for now, and it's mind-blowing to me that many critics would put this on their top 10 for the Sight and Sound entry. Like, Gertrude?
You gave
This
it
is the
1 star.
Oh, yeah. The only reason I didn't give it half a star is because it looked nice. I swear to God, if it didn't...
It did look nice. That's what I'm saying. That's why I'll take it over, like, I don't know.
But that's the only reason I gave it a star instead of half a star. I hate this. I think it's the bane of my existence. Well, this is normally where we do our Pauline Kael segment, but I could not find a Pauline Kael review for this anywhere. So it leads me to believe
Bless her
she
heart.
did not review it, which honestly, I'm happy for her that she wasn't subjected to this nonsense.
I hope one day we dig up a review and she loved it. Just a scrap of paper she left behind in her apartment saying, like, Gertrude is God.
It's her rosebud. Like her dying words were
Gertrude. There you go.
But instead of Pauline, and I feel like she would have hated this, we do have Letterboxd.
Good. Okay, so I'm going to start with a high one.
Okay, great.
It's 4.5 stars. It says, Dissolution Through Time. Dreyer was one of the great film musicians, and this might be the most perfect controlled composition.
Oh my God. I mean, hey, I'm happy for you if it doesn't for you, but half a star. The only thing this movie values more than seeing how far up its own ass it can get is being endless. If you want to do a play, do the play and do it well. If you want to make a movie, make the movie and make it well. This contrary piece of cinematic tranquilizer instead went, I'll make a movie play and make it shitty.
That's hilarious. So someone gave it 5 stars and wrote, Gertrude is fucking delusional.
5 stars.
5 stars.
1 star. I made it 24 minutes before I threw in the towel, deciding the completion of my 2023 Criterion Challenge wasn't worth this aggressive tedium. Whole scenes spent by the lead staring into the middle distance. A story world where it's impossible for me to imagine anyone ever breaking a sweat. I do period pieces. I do dialogue driven. I do quiet. I do black and white. I do buttoned up. I do foreign. I do low key. I do not do whatever this one... wait.
That's you.
I do not do whatever one calls this.
That is you.
There aren't words to express how little I cared about what was happening with these characters or how it was being portrayed. There aren't words to express how little the actors cared about portraying anything believably human.
That's hilarious. 1.5 star. Oh, Gertrude, what a self-absorbed drama queen you are. Gertrude has got to be the most annoying female protagonist apart from Amelie. Sad.
Yeah.
It's a character in a performance that simply drove me up the wall. Supposedly a portrait of an extremely romantic and highly passionate woman, she is never shown as such. Moving through the film like a soulless robot, she seems to be barely breathing.
Yep.
And then she goes on. There's talk about erotic ecstasy, but they're just empty words, not backed up by behavior. Accusing each one of these men of being incapable of love, it is really her who is lacking. She never even makes eye contact.
Yeah, agreed completely. 100%. 1 star. What in the world is this? Why is this film on any great films list? It is an abysmal, painful dredge. I've never seen more passionless film about passion than this slog. I swear, not a single character makes eye contact in the whole film. They just stare off into space and drone on about the only point in life is to love, and yet not one of them is even slightly lovable. Who did this? And who made this character the pinnacle of every man's desire? She's apathetic and uninteresting. Gertrude is no Audrey Hepburn. Come on now. I honestly feel like this is a sarcastic parody or something. If so, the joke's on me because I just don't get it.
Wow. That's also you.
I mean, but I wouldn't comment on her physicality. That's a little low, I think.
I love how I said she's no Audrey Hepburn. 3.5 stars. The man I am to be with must be mine entirely. And with these words, Gertrud becomes unreachable by all three men who love and seek to possess her. None are willing to make the impossibly idealistic leap into a love so pure, and their reluctance and inability doubles as a metaphor for the egotism that prevents religious devotion. I do not think there's a metaphor here.
No, well,
I do not think that. If that's the case, it's an interesting take. Like what she's got. Literally, and I said when Pauline's fake reviews, Gertrude is God. That's what this person is saying, that Gertrude is God.
Yeah.
And that you just can't devote yourself completely, which is like, that's kind of interesting, but I do not think that's what's going on here.
I think even if that's the case, there's just too little to care about. Yeah. This is the last one for me, 1.5 stars. I just hated watching this. Dreyer's direction completely falls flat in service of a weak script and completely tiresome performances. Compared to some of Dreyer's other movies, there's just nothing going on here. Gertrude is not interesting enough to justify its slow pace and oppressive tone. How in the world could this be considered the best of anything? Could this really be anyone's favorite of any subgenre? Ibsen could write shit like this in his sleep. It is not enough that this film is needlessly slow and boring as shit. It is also philosophically uninteresting. One of the most obtuse, clownishly self-serious films I've ever seen. I honestly believe its needless place in the canon only exists to perpetuate the myth that black and white foreign films are inaccessible slogs. But here's the truth. They are not all like this movie. There is nothing to get about Gertrude. It just sucks.
That's also you.
Oh, for sure.
Well,
this movie's terrible. Thank God this is over.
Oh my goodness. I enjoyed talking about it. Did you? No?
I mean,
wow.
I guess
see how it is.
You kind of enjoy talking about anything that you're like, I passionately hated this. So I guess for the,
wow, Greg.
I enjoyed it in that sense.
You're really holding back here.
This is a terrible film. This is terrible. And, we don't mean to alienate anyone who loves this. I can see, like, hopefully this is no one's, like,
we're gonna get an Apple podcast
to our show
saying, I don't know why Greg is so mean to Gertrude.
Hopefully we made our point clear, though, like why we hate it. It's not a bias. It's not like I have legitimate
on so
reasons.
Many levels.
So many.
I think, like,
every level.
Theoretically and,
the execution.
Tonally.
Yes.
Everything.
Yeah, I hate this. This is terrible.
Say it one more time.
But at least it set the bar so low that, like,
What's next week? So next week is going to be
next week.
fire.
I've seen it is. Yeah. Guess it's an Orson Welles film.
A Touch of Evil.
Touch of Evil.
I've been waiting to see this for the podcast.
Oh, you've never seen it?
Mm-mm.
Oh boy, it's great. I have a 4K of it that I haven't watched yet, so now this is my perfect chance to pop it on.
There you go.
So yeah, come back next week for a much better film, Orson Welles' Touch of Evil, which is a great one.
I wonder how many people have actually seen Gertrude.
Hopefully no one. Hopefully it just gets erased from everyone's memories like that thing from Men in Black and people can forget it ever existed.
I was going to say it's not offensive, but it kind of is to women.
Oh, I think for sure it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I get it. I don't like it either, Greg. Like,
then shout it from the rooftops.
You really want me to say I hate this movie on the air?
Say it.
I don't hate the first part, though.
But come on, the whole? You don't hate this?
I hate the whole.
Say it.
I hate the whole. You're happy now?
I imagine Jerry Seinfeld saying that.
I hate it.
I am happy.
Oh, man. Okay.
Well, that's 2 hates in our corner. hate. So.
This rarely happens.
Yeah. No, yeah, for sure. I've never hated a movie this much we've done for the show before.
What is the movie you hate the most of all time? Do you have one?
I mean, I don't know. Like,
I can't think of one.
I'd have to think about it for a while. Probably like some Illumination animation shit. Like,
no, something with stakes, like something that like people love, that's like considered important in our society that you like hate.
oh, like, well, I don't know if it's considered important anymore, but I hate the Boondock Saints, which for my generation growing up among a certain age group of boys was a very important movie that was mentioned alongside Fight Club and Pulp Fiction and stuff. But even then and now, I think it's the absolute bottom of the barrel bullshit, terrible movie.
Wow.
You seen that?
Never even heard of it.
Willem Dafoe is in it.
I've never even heard of it.
What about you? What's like the biggest?
I don't know.
Oh, you're gonna make me answer, but then
you think of things quicker than I do. I take time. Maybe next week I'll have my answer.
I hate Requiem for a Dream. Although Ellen Burstyn's great.
Ellen Burstyn's so good in it.
But
so I can't hate it. That's the thing.
I think, yeah, Aronofsky is an easy branch for me to grab onto. I hate Mother.
I haven't seen it.
You haven't seen Mother?
No, I never saw it.
Oh, it's terrible.
It looked scary.
I mean, it's more stressful than anything, but it's just a terrible movie. But anyway, now we're just turning into a hate fest. You're getting me to...
You don't have... You can cut that. I truly can't think of one. I'm trying to think of one that's like everyone loves and I hate.
Because hate is a strong word. Like, I don't love The Dark Knight, but I don't hate it.
I actually love The Dark Knight.
Do you?
I think it's probably the best superhero movie.
No.
Come on.
Superhero movies are supposed to be fun.
It is fun.
No.
I mean, no, it's not fun, but it's austere and respectable.
When was the last time you saw it?
Probably during the pandemic.
Oh, okay.
I like it.
You're okay with the writing and the pacing and the 4 different endings and
yeah,
all the exposition dumps and...
You know what movie I hate?
What?
Like I had to go see like that Black Widow movie, and it was like the first movie I saw out of COVID, and the fact that was the movie I went to the movie theaters for and I watched it, I was miserable.
We did talk about that briefly because I think on our Midsummer episode, was it Midsummer? I don't know.
We talked about how Flo was in that.
Either that or we talked about it in relation to special effects.
Oh yeah, like, just the word, like
it looks
was
terrible.
Yeah.
Someone was watching it on a plane I was on, and I saw some of it just with no sound, and I was
think
like,
it's mostly just because that was the first one I went back to the movies for, and so it really scarred my heart.
Yeah.
Anyway,
it looked terrible. Anyway, so yeah, come back next week for, I almost said something like a hot Touch of Evil, completely different film, Touch of Evil. And yeah, I mean, if this is one you haven't seen, please watch it. It's one of the greats for a reason.
Excited.
It's a great film. So until then, I'm Greg.
I'm Jackie.
And we'll see you next time.
Bye.
Gertrud is pretentious. So pretentious. Dreyer has made a bad film. Bad film.
Special thanks to the patrons at our highest tier, John Pennington and Cynthia Fordwell. Seen and Heard is an official podcast of the Arroyo Film Club. We'd love to hear from you. If you want to drop us a line, you can find us on email at hello@seenandheardpod.com or on Instagram at seenandheardpod.
Pretentious. So pretentious. Dreyer has made a bad film. Bad film. Sometimes our heroes fail us. That's okay. Sometimes we're beside ourselves. That's okay. Gertrud is pretentious. So pretentious.